We are live. What's up, good people? We are back. But real quick, always got to play the intro.
Together for the best damn sports show weekly.
Come to the room on a Sunday afternoon. Nyo Weekly, lowering the boom. Step into the room on a Sunday afternoon, and it's Nyo Weekly, lowering the boom.
Make some noise for your host, Nico.
Lowering the boom.
Make some noise for the OG.
Lowering the boom.
950 Cav.
Lowering the boom.
And TJ Jones.
Lowering the boom. Step into the room on a Sunday afternoon, and it's Nyo Weekly, lowering the boom. Step into the room on a Sunday afternoon, and it's Nyo Weekly, lowering the boom.
What's up, people? We are back for another, NYO Weekly. Me and the guys, OG, will more than likely be in a little later. But gentlemen, how y'all doing, man? I know we talked a little bit before the show, but how you guys doing?
Ain't there above dirt? It's a blessed day. Even though I my tail off and got him home up top, but nevertheless, we make it through and we make it work.
Very true. Very true. Very true. T, what's new, man?
Chilling. 80 degrees out here today. So I'm happy.
When he looked off, Kev, he was about to say something real petty.
Go watch a little softball today and get my tan on. Get my tan on. So there you go.
I ain't mad at you, player. I ain't mad at you. The victors go to spoils.
Me neither. Me neither at all. You've earned it. You've earned it.
Thank you. That's why I pay the sunshine tax out here. That's why. So
hey, you get what you pay for.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You get what you pay for. So, guys, this is the first topic, man. I'm sure y'all have seen this clip, just like I have. This is the first topic of the day.
I just totally 100% object to this. And if I was the GM or coach,
me too.
I would never let one of my players walk out on the floor looking like this. I mean, we are a professional NBA league. We ain't summer league. We ain't at the YMCA.
Listen, I think coaches got to go back to suits.
Absolutely.
I just mean
absolutely. I just think
college and pro.
I just think the professionalism in our NBA league has diminished so much, and I second part of.
So, guys, was the Pistons legend Chicago native doing too much, or does he have a point? Does the NBA need to go back to dress codes in every way? What you say, T?
It's a different era, right?
Yep.
And the thing is, and this is my point on my opinion on this is the NBA, they basically created this because remember when players were suspended, they were requiring them to wear suits while they were suspended, sitting on the bench. Why? So now they're just like, okay, we're going to fight this and we're going to dress the way that we normally dress outside of here, which is, and we all know majority of the players are black. So we're going to dress the way that we want to or the way our culture is. So why not? But I mean, for LeBron to be out there with no shirt, I mean, and there's nobody around really. Who cares? Who cares? Seriously. It's he's comfortable. Do you? As long as you don't walk out there with some Speedos on, so we're good.
Yeah, you got a point there. Kev, what you say?
How can I put this without sounding like the grumpy old man?
Because you are the grumpy old man, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Listen, I think there's right and wrong on both. Okay. I'm gonna start with the right. LeBron went out to shoot very early. It wasn't, if any, people in the stands, very few, maybe just media people. So again, he probably didn't think twice about it. Ain't like the man was going out there looking like Rick Ross, in shape, shooting baskets, what have you, right? But then I also see Zeke's point of view. You can't say you're the king. You can't say you're the leader of the pack. You have to show by example. While yes, LeBron, maybe I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure just gonna have to go get a good sweat before, warm up, extra shots. Yeah. But it's bigger than just LeBron. We use this in music. We use this in other industries. It's bigger than just the individual. Now, again, this is a billion-dollar industry. Obviously, maybe not been no fans, but he knew it was cameras. Somebody saw it, So cameras were there. Obviously, the NBA is about making money. Even though we know who LeBron is, marketing is important and what have you. But also showing a standard that, hey, you know what? The things that LeBron does, somebody's going to follow. Do we think that you mentioned about Speedos, right? So what's next? Somebody come out there in Speedos. I'm just saying, I understand I don't think LeBron meant any harm by it. But again, in business, and it is a business, it's a bigger picture. And I just think that, somebody can do something harmless and still do harm. Things happen all the time that you didn't mean to do it. You're just doing it, but it could be a trickle down. So I think Zeke is right, but also, as you said, Terrell, it is a different time, a different era. I do agree with him. I think that the coaches should go back to suits. We're not in COVID anymore. I understood why they got away from that. But I think, again, that there should be some type of professionalism. When you're talking about millions of dollars, it's bigger than just the floor. We understand the floor, but it's bigger than that.
But Kev, let me ask you this. This is probably not the first time that LeBron has done this. And
it's a bunch of videos about him, running up.
But again, the thing is that it's probably like there's hardly anybody in there, and that's his his thing. And somebody probably filmed it on their iPhone and put it out there.
Right.
So so where's the privacy issue on this? That's my thing.
Well, there's no such thing as privacy once you went.
That's the thing is that people. But and again, he's out there warming up. He's probably done this before, and he doesn't think twice about it. But now somebody films it and puts it out there. So
I agree with that. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he did this with any thought of trying of hurting the game. I just think he's just warming up. But also, there is a standard. The standard is the standard. It's the same reason why when you watch the well-off videos and Coach Prime says, you know what, you got to wear black socks. Well, I can do the same workout in white socks. No, the standard is the standard. And LeBron, who's been in the game 20 years, understands that. That's all I'm saying. It's like, again, if we're talking about guys doing, the John Morant signals and all this other nonsense, which again is another story, then we have to keep the standard. Just like you worked in the NFL, they got the uniform police.
But I will tell you this: when guys would go out and warm up before, there's hardly anybody out there whatsoever. Because we would get there. I would get there about 9 o'clock in the morning before 1 o'clock kickoff. I would take guys outside to warm them up, and they had no shirts on.
Yeah.
Again, because they feel comfortable doing that. So this is where I think the privacy issue comes in, and I think that people just take things a little too far sometimes. He's out there with no shirt on. So
to that point, Tito, about the NFL, could that be a because I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, well, they do it in the NFL, but also they're playing in elements. So it's that mind over matter kind of thing. LeBron, he playing in a controlled gym. So I mean, I'm just saying that could be kind of like somebody's response to you saying.
But also too, you got to think about this: is that he's doing. It's probably he's probably been doing this for 20 years. This is his everyday routine.
For sure.
So, I mean, you want your player to be in a routine to where their mindset is going to be, we're going to go out here and win this game. We're going to play the best, possible way we possibly can. So, so again, I just think some people are like, they look for little nitpicky things like that just to talk about. That's all. So.
I can agree with that. Again, like I said, I can agree with that. Maybe Zeke woke up on the wrong side of bed, but I really don't believe LeBron did anything, destroy the essence of the league. I just think that obviously he knows this. You have to realize that everywhere you go, like I said, like we talked about, when guys don't give one kid who's 10 years old an autograph, right? You give millions of autographs. He has a cold one day. He don't want to be bothered, headache, migraine, or whatever. That one kid remembers that. I understand that's a lot to bear on one person. I mean, even though LeBron's great, he's still human. Yeah. But I also, can understand, hey, somebody did catch that and say, hey, it's just not how we do things. So I don't think he did anything wrong. Like I said, you can do something without being malicious about it and still not be the best thing. So I don't think it's a big thing. I think we'll forget about it by tomorrow, Tuesday, and we move on to the playoffs. But I just,
something, and also too, I think LeBron may be just showing off that this is what you get when you buy my Ken doll. You get this. There you go. So
like I said, it wasn't like he was, flapping around. I mean, the guy, 40 years old, body beautiful. I ain't mad at him on that. We all achieved to be that, So
right. But Kev, I will agree with you that I liked it better when the coaches were in suits. That's just
yeah, and I
like that.
And that's what they said too. They was like, the coaches. Because when did that come into play during the pandemic?
They went to the bubble. I was wearing suits in the bubble, and then I guess they decided, hey, we feel more comfortable. But if I see Tom Thibodeau in that same nasty ass black pullover one more time, I'm gonna scream. And it's just like, bro, you guys make enough money. You probably have tailor deals. Wear a suit. I'm not the players part. I'm not, it's okay for me. I don't look at the players much because they're players, but the coaches, that's why I like Patino, and I'm not making a New York thing.
Yes.
It's still Godfathered up and makes his coaches do that. It's a certain image, man. And that's just me. Maybe that's the older Kev, the younger Kev. Yeah, wear the Timbs on the side. Nah, man, put on a suit.
I agree with you. I like when they're in suits. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, just have to kick the show off like that. Because a lot of them older vets probably do feel that way. Like, man, league is going to shit.
But again, it's a different generation. So things change. Things change.
Before you move on, look at the office crowd, right? It was a time where you had to wear a suit every day, suit and tie. Mm-hmm. Now the dress casual is every day. I don't work in the office per se anymore, but when I did, there's people walking around like you wore that. You got up and constantly put that on to go to work, but nobody says anything. So it's just a different era, and that trickles down to all aspects of life, including sports.
Right.
I get you. Okay, gentlemen. So next topic. NCAA. As we all know, Nico is now out of Tennessee. And my question for y'all, man, is this how college is gonna go about things going forward?
Well, obviously, with clear transparency, my love for Rocky Top, but I just think that obviously you have when the Ed O'Bannon situation started many years ago, and for those who don't know who Ed O'Bannon is, I ain't got time to explain it. Go Google him. When the Ed O'Bannon situation happened, it was because of a video game with likeness, name, image, and likeness. Yep, this thing is designed for if I'm in Norman, Oklahoma, and Norman Ford is using my likeness to come sign autographs, I should get some money. It should be where if they're selling my jersey on Fanatics or in a school bookstore, I should get some money. Obviously, anytime you have no control of a situation, the inmates will run the asylum. And I'm not talking about the players, I'm talking about the universities. These big universities decided, hey, you know what? We'll just turn the word booster around and make it into a collective. So with that collective can normally say, hey, you know what, you're going to sign 10 autographs for us, and you're gonna, sign a couple jerseys, and we're gonna give you $3 million. Now, again, what's the difference for that and giving the money to the table? Not a damn thing. It's just now everything that's up front. And what has happened, and this Nico thing won't be the first. Won't be the last. Excuse me. Is that these players are looking around and saying, you know what? I deserve more money. Nico signed that deal when he came out of high school in Long Beach. And you probably know that being on the West Coast. It was one of the biggest NIL deals because, again, this is not that old. One of the biggest NIL deals signed by a high school player going to school. Rocky Top's got plenty of dollars. Mm-hmm. He went to the playoffs last year, 10-3 record. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they got destroyed by your team and made that little foolish move walking around with no shirts. We're talking about no shirts in the last segment. But, the Nico situation.
It wasn't that cold out there, kid. That's what they were trying to tell us.
Boys, Rocky Top gets cold, but they don't get Ohio cold. But for what has happened with this, it's the NCAA. And the NCAA, again, if you're not going to govern on big things, then just go away. Just dissolve, because this is going to happen more. And I'm really waiting to see the team who gets him. Because obviously, if you heard the story, Dan Lanning from Oregon seems to be the one that threw the whistle to let Heupel know in Tennessee that the family's trying to get a better deal. So again, in a world where, and I'm being long-winded, but in a world where everybody's a crook, there's no honor amongst thieves. Yeah. You're going to get this, and somebody's going to pick him up, and somebody's probably going to pay him the $4 million. And that's going to be the disrespectful part of it, because, again, that's only going to open the door for the next kid to say, you know what? Hey, listen, I got my teams in there. I want a chip. He got into the play. I want a chip. I want more money next year. So somebody's got to stand still and stand firm and try to nip this in the bud. But
so real quick, let me ask both of you this. Hypothetically, say the kid that goes to Michigan has a decent year. Could he be the next Nico in this equation? Like, hey, I balled. I did my job. I need a little more, because I forget how much they gave him, but
10. They got 10
over 4 years.
Signing these kids to these kind of deals, they could be like, hey, I did some things most freshmen don't do. I need a little more.
Before I pass the show, I just want to make it clear. I am all for players getting paid. I used to coach youth ball. There's a couple guys I know. One guy that, in a few weeks, hopefully gets his name called. I'm all for that, because the NFL has been the biggest plantation ever made to man since slavery. And I'm not I joke. I'm being very serious about that. The thing about this is that you have to have boundaries. This happened at the worst possible time. This thing is in the federal, it's in Congress right now. And again, Congress wants to bring it down to $650 a player or something like that. If I'm correct, Terrell, if you can correct me if I'm wrong. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, so here's a couple things. Number one is, from what I read about this whole Nico situation, his agent got involved and started going back to negotiating, and of course we know that there's very few agents that do things for the right reasons. Okay. Right.
Of course.
So now, and again, to me, what some of these agents do is they go to these families who don't understand the system and manipulate them and say, oh, by the way, we should get more because of this, and this, when you've already agreed to something. Okay. So you have that, which again, I'm not against players getting paid, but we knew this was going to happen. We knew these sharks were going to come out of the water. So, so you have that. Now, to what Kevin's talking about, the judge already ruled on this, but she wants just a little bit more clarity on this. And there's certain things that I looked at that I was like, okay, this is going to be craziness. But, number one, now you can increase your how many scholarships you can give. Okay.
Really?
Yes. But now you have a salary cap. You have a salary cap in the NCAA.
Is that $20 million for the whole department or just for football?
I think it's for the whole department. I think it's $20 million for the whole department.
Right.
Really?
Could be like $800 a player.
Right. So, and again, but there's going to be more added to it, and I think the judge is doing the right thing by. I need more clarification on this. But we know that. So let's say it is just $20 million for the whole department. We know a good 70 to 75% of that's going to go to football. And now the other sports are going to be like, well, what the heck? And I said this last week too. I'm waiting for somebody to sue over Title IX. It's coming.
It's coming.
Nobody has done it yet, but it's coming. So the NCAA basically, So the NCAA they created this monster because they had, like Kev said, they had no control of the situation, and they were being greedy. If they would have sat down with this 10 years ago, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. But we are.
What year is this of the NIL? Is this like
year three or four?
Year 4, 2021 start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but also too, and I don't know if you guys remember this. I think it was last year where that player from the linebacker from Florida, he went in there into his coach's office and gave a list of demands. That
I remember
this.
that.
Yeah, I want to be paid this. I want to play these many downs. Da, 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 da. You know what they did? They said, "See you, bye."
They said one of the corners at like Texas Tech or receiver or something had some demands too, and it was like, bro,
Texas Tech, the receiver.
Like, get out.
And Nick Saban told us this, right? Nobody wanted to listen to old man Nick. Like, that's why he left. Like, yo, these kids come in, how much I'm getting paid, what's my playing time?
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's why colleges now are hiring GMs.
Yeah.
So the GMs can handle this instead of the coaches.
So let me ask y'all.
I'm sorry.
No, you good. But let me ask.
Good. Shut up.
Let me ask you, T.
Yeah.
But and you too, Kev. If hypothetically, San Jose wanted you to come in and help them with their NIL department, how would you approach it?
Number one, I wouldn't do it for San Jose State because their administration is so messed up. There's no way.
Any school you like.
Okay, so let's
Minnesota.
Okay.
Let's go.
So let's say it was Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah.
That job I would really look hard at, and I would probably take it because of PJ Fleck. Because we're friends.
Okay. Yeah.
The way that I would go into it is that I would say, number one, we have to. It's not going to be fair the way you carve up the pie, but we have to make it so it's closer to equality as much as we possibly can. Plain and simple. Because again, some of these other sports are not getting any revenue whatsoever. None.
True.
And they look at the lesser ones, say it's track and field, say it's field hockey, whatever it is. But you have to do that. But also too, you have to be able to manage the kids, the agents, and the parents. Those are the most important things. And you have to get to a point where you, like Kev said, you have to take a stand. You can't give in because it's like anything else, It's like if you give in, the word gets out, right?
True. And
then every kid's going to line up saying, hey, well, you gave so-and-so this. Well, where's mine?
Right. Where's my piece of the pie?
Yeah. Exactly.
No, you got a point. What about you, Kev? How would you approach it?
Well,
first of all, what school would you go to, Kev? That's what I want to know.
Hey, I give San Jose. St. John. Say, Patino hit your line.
And was the right way. They don't need me.
How about Miami? Let's send you tropical. Let's send you to Miami.
Send me to Miami. Yeah. Listen, my thing is at this stage of the game, the genie's out the bottle, right? No matter what Power 5 school you go to, the genie's out the bottle. And what it's going to take, and I don't have any confidence, is the school administrators, the school presidents, the ADs, the conferences. They're the ones who are going to have to try to bring some decorum. But like I just mentioned previously, there's no honor amongst thieves in this group. And again, they're cutting each other's throats. It's the same reason why we have no more Pac-12. It's the same reason why the ACC is downing. And I've said this on one of these Sunday conversations in the past, that if the NCAA is not smart, they are going to lose their grip on their viewership. Because again, after what you think people are not getting sick and tired is, I can just go watch Sunday football where I know they get paid. where I know it's a business. And I think, again, college football was the last pure big sport, in my opinion. It was a situation where you went winning for old State and the Oak and Bucket and the Game and all these other cliche titles. And what has happened is, because of TV dollars, greed, we have lost our way. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing people start to peel off from college football. I said this on either here or Clubhouse, that it happens in boxing. Once the networks get involved and start throwing millions of dollars and saying, don't fight for titles and just, let's just make the great best fight available. Same thing with college football. Oh, Ohio State, you ain't got to play Purdue or Michigan State. Go play Oregon and SC. People going to want to see that. Well, we know what's happened. That greed is going to destroy this game. Because, again, players and families are seeing it. When coaches are bouncing around, right, and going where they want to go, why can't the players do? We see in the NCAA tournament, it was one school, they had just lost. 20 minutes later, the kid was in the portal. Like, really? This is how we moving? So, again, the adults destroyed this. The kids and the families just followed. But I'm not going to throw the blame so much on Nico, because Nico's just playing the game they were given. I don't like it. I think, again, people could say he's greedy, whatever, but he's playing the game that was given.
So how would you go about it, GM? At
this stage of the game, I would have if this scenario you put me in, if I'm at Miami, and I'm somebody who feels like, wow, I got Florida up the hill in Gainesville, I got State up in Tallahassee, I'm next door right here to LSU. I need to go to my commissioner, because, again, either A, I'm going to look out for me, which is what they do now, right? Miami's trying to get into the Big Ten or SEC. But if I'm like, what I'm looking at, from probably a better question for me, if I look at it as a conference president and say, hey, how do I try to bring this thing back? The two power brokers are the SEC guy and your guy in the Big Ten. And say, hey, how do we bring this thing back together? Because what will happen, it's just going to be the Wild West. Everybody's going to get affected. You live in a neighborhood where everybody's shooting. Well, what's the percentage of you getting shot? So I think, again, it's bigger than just the schools now. It's the whole conglomerate of college football to say, hey, listen, we're losing this game. And when we lose the game with fans and money and all that, then what's going to happen is that we all, as a unit, which tells me in a nutshell, eventually there probably will be a super league where will be no more conferences. There'll probably be the top 60 schools, and they're just going to be the ones going for national championships. Everybody else is to be playing for whatever else. Because it's going
and the sad thing is that, big business is already taken over college sports.
Yeah.
And we're not even talking about the networks. We're talking about the private equity groups that are coming in that actually can purchase not only a piece of the athletic department, but individual sports.
Mm-hmm.
And now, guess what? Now you open the doors for the Saudi Fund League, which is the largest, cap league or cap fund in the world. And they want to get involved in American sports. They're already looking at the NFL. They've already got into the NBA. So
to that point, you think they'll start sponsoring schools?
No.
Schools?
They don't sponsor schools. Here's what they do, Suave, is they can go and buy a percentage. So let's say that you want to buy a percentage of Alabama, you can get, and I think they capped it at 10%. You can buy a percentage. So any revenue that they get that comes in, you get 10% of that total revenue that's coming in.
Wow.
So you can pick a sport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or they can just go after all the 5 stars, put them under a collective, and get them what school they're going to go to. Similar to how Nike and Adidas were doing for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Dirty game, man. And
it is.
I won't, obviously I could say things, but, being a college recruiter, you might as well be working for the mob.
Well, the college recruiters are now agents. So
at this point, yeah.
I mean, but it's been filthy, but it's gotten worse. Yeah. It's gotten,
yeah.
That's crazy, man. I didn't. Wow. I know the Saudis was trying to move into it too.
Oh yeah,
Rap money.
well, because if you think about it, when it comes to American sports or sports internationally, we are the most successful country when it comes to sports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we are the most watched when it comes to sports. You know, as a collective, right?
that's true. Yeah, no, you're right.
And they're
other countries know our best athletes more than we know theirs.
And it's the one group that's not worried about losing money. So it's not like, oh, well, like everybody else is counting their pennies. You're not worried about that.
You know, here's the funny thing about the whole Saudi group. It's not that they go out and they build businesses. They wake up in the morning and their money's bubbling out of the ground. It's oil.
Real life dead clap it.
Exactly. You know, you talk about basically being born into wealth. That's it right there. And I'll tell you what, because I've been to Saudi Arabia. I spent 4 months in Saudi Arabia when I was in the service. Dude, there's so much money around there. It's just like, I'm just like, are you kidding me? I watch people drive their cars 90 miles an hour through town, crash their Mercedes, and just leave it there and go to the dealership and buy another one.
They built how crazy it is out of sand, dog. They built Dubai. It was sand. It was desert. They built it. They built it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that says it all.
Exactly.
That's crazy. That's wild. I got a couple calls to make. No.
One little trim.
All right. All right, y'all. So next topic, but I will say this. The clip is a little vulgar. A lot of language. Just throwing it out there. Here we go.
Not once, twice last week versus the Warriors. Is this an overreaction to stuff he's done in the past? Because let's be real, a lot of people do it on all different levels. I mean, shooters shoot and they point the guns.
I mean, I love the family, man. That's my guy. But y'all got to chill with all that shit. You know what I mean? Because you already got a reputation. I mean, come on, Ja. This Uncle Max talking to you. Goddamn, baby. We got to goddamn change the narrative now a little bit. You know what I mean? You was going to be the face of the NBA at one time. Now you the villain. Okay, that's who I was. I mean, you can embrace the villain part and shit and be a villain, but still, man, keep that goddamn money in your goddamn pocket, boy. I'm trying to tell you, man, save that motherfucking money, man, because I wish I know you motherfuckers make way more money than what the fuck I was making, but I won't give a fuck, man. Save that money, man. Be more professional about what you're doing, man. You get more motherfucking deals than what you're getting.
Our boy.
So, gentlemen, will he ever learn?
Probably not.
Because I'm sure y'all see now he got the little grenade celebration.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I think is a little more clever than, that's just me. It's a little more clever. But, at this point, it's like, bro, they going to find something. Just walk straight and narrow.
Well, the thing is, you don't even have to walk the straight and narrow, but just be smart about it.
Yeah.
There's other ways to celebrate certain things, right?
Yeah.
And and again, these guys are making so much money. Sometimes he's laughing that it's going to cost me what, $100,000 this time, $200,000. That adds up.
Yeah.
75K.
Imagine you having to pay $75K for doing this. I'll never do that shit again. Like, come on,
exactly. But but like Mad Max said, he's losing out on so many deals. I mean, and again, I don't want to count anybody's money. I don't want to be in anybody's pocket. But if you're not smart with your money, one day you may wake up and say, "Damn, I wish I had that $75K."
Because what? I would like to know how much he's lost with all these suspensions and fines. Because I'm sure it got to be at least 50+ mil, at least.
Right. I mean, you're just giving money back. Why?
Yeah. What you say about it, 950?
To be young and rich, right? I mean, if we look at if I take it back to yesteryear, right? I remember Derek Coleman getting fined like $10,000 because he refused to wear a suit on a plane and didn't care, right? Played 42 games. You do the math on 10 stacks. And again, Mad Max and the transparency, hopefully I have this conversation with him in a few weeks. But from a standpoint, when you have this type of money, and a lot of these guys have yes people around them.
Yep.
And I'm not here to talk about Ja's family, but that's all. You don't need to listen to us to hear that. You can his pops at the games and stuff like that. It just seems like what now has become defiant. And sometimes a lot of these young athletes, pro athletes, feel like this is their birthright. I worked hard. I deserve to do this. I can do what I want. But at the end of the day, like I keep saying, and all the things we've been talking about, these are businesses.
Yeah.
And if you run a business and the business starts to get affected, I don't think they're just picking on Ja to be picking on Ja. Like I hear all these stories and stuff, but they look at it from the athlete's perspective. I look at it from the business perspective.
Yeah.
And if you keep doing certain things that affect the bottom line, eventually somebody else gonna come out here and maybe not do everything you do, but there's gonna be somebody out here that can do different things as a basketball player. And I'm not saying that Ja Morant's not talented, but again, you cannot continue to do this. What's the thing that Tomlin used to always say? I'm messing up the quote, but it was like something about, hey, we only tolerate you till you can't produce no more. We've seen it in all sports with Terrell Owens, which very well, Terrell. All these other guys, they
Antonio Brown.
Right, and right until they can't, they're not usable on the court or on the field no more. And I'm not saying he's at that level, but I am saying that, at the end of the day, bro, like they don't need you. It ain't like people clever to watch Memphis basketball anyway. This is not LeBron. This is not KD. This is not the big names of the sport. And it's unfortunate because he had an opportunity to be the face of basketball. The same thing with Anthony Edwards. But a lot of these young guys, they just want to do their own thing. And because a lot of them are the breadwinners in their families and their extended families, nobody's going to question them. And that's
but if we go back to Memphis, right? Just think about how many sponsorships they probably lost already because of this.
Yeah.
And we know that Memphis is not a big market. Right. So they need every dollar they possibly can get in, right?
Yeah.
And plus the NBA, if I'm not mistaken, the NBA is not a revenue sharing league like the NFL is.
Right.
So you're losing, money that way, But and if you look at, and I know Kevin brought up Anthony Edwards, the thing about Anthony Edwards is he's not doing what Ja's doing. He's not being foolish. Yeah. He speaks his mind, but everybody loves the way that he speaks his mind, and he's getting more and more deals because he's hilarious. He's just so off the cuff.
But his sneaker sales are down because of all his off the court stuff. So that again, one of his biggest off the court is his shoe brand, and that's down. That's all I'm saying. It's like, like certain guys are doing different things. Ja's doing his on the court. Anthony Edwards is doing something with his life. But it does affect the bottom line. This is a social business. That's why we know their salaries, because it's public record. So,
but we have to think about this though. I mean, Adidas is down all around across the board, regardless. Mm-hmm. And so I'm gonna, me, I'm gonna get a little political here. It's dropping even more because now of these tariffs.
Of course.
So I mean, we're talking Nike, Under Armour, all of them are dropping now. But the thing about, even though that his shoe sales are down, but he's still getting more, Anthony Edwards is still getting more opportunities.
True.
Right. So he's like, okay, you know what? Maybe you guys aren't doing a good enough job of marketing my shoes, but guess what? I'm going over here where Domino's is giving me some more money.
True.
So yeah.
God's made it is put his foot in the sand and said, it's me against you. And you're not going to win that battle against the NBA. I'm sorry.
Right.
You're not.
No, you're right. You're right.
So, I mean, I don't know, man. I think at this point, he don't care.
No, you don't.
And it's, it's unfortunate because, a lot of people would die to be in that spot. I'm sure we all know a bunch of basketball players that Like, come on, fam. You
And this
know,
is
you,
why,
you
again,
living a dream.
you look at Memphis, the team first. That team has got all the talent in the world.
Yeah.
But now, again, when you got all these distractions, guys fighting on the sidelines, Jaws antics,
Coach just got fired,
and you're in a city where it's rampant gun violence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the guy that they're looking at. And again, and probably in Jaws' head, I'm playing an emotional sport. I'm being emotional. It's how I get off.
Yeah.
Again, Jaws' point of view is probably like, hey, I entertain you, right? You're paying all this money, I entertain you. You don't go to a concert and tell Mick Jagger how to walk around the stage. And I'm just saying, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. But from a standpoint, you have to know as an athlete that at the end of the day, it's bigger than you. And a lot of these guys don't see it that way. They just see their universe.
Well, Kev, let's throw our business hat on again with this.
Mm-hmm.
If let's say that Ja just stopped all this, a few years ago, and the NBA says, okay, you're the face of the NBA. So we're going to pay you to go over to China to do these clinics. We're going to pay you to go over to Europe to do these clinics.
Mm-hmm.
And now these businesses are going to be knocking on your door saying, hey, these international businesses saying, hey, we want you to be the face of our products. That's more money in your pocket. That, what? And the thing is, what he has to realize too is that when he retires, he's not going to be as relevant as he is now.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about athletes. We all know this. They want to stay as relevant until they're in the dirt.
What you just mentioned is life, is generation. My kid, it's generational money. That money don't stop, because if you're international, you look at Jordan. I mean, Jordan has been almost 30 years, and he's still, the number one sneaker brand. His kids come up today, don't even know Jordan as a player, know him as a shoe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
John Madden, so you're talking about things like from a standpoint telling he's right. And that's why I'm like, who was in this kid's ear? Because again,
nobody.
A lot of people in his ear that are plucking off him. It's very similar to celebrities like Whitney Houston and all these other Prince and Michael. All these people, too many yes people. Nobody wants to tell you the truth because they're afraid they're going to lose their money.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. And then
I was going to say this is that, and I hate when people do this. They say, well, you know what? He's a product of his environment, but you take a guy like LeBron, where he grew up. He was smart enough to say, okay, I'm going to get this money, but I need to sit down and talk to the right people on how I can continue to grow my wealth and do certain things. And I probably said this before, but I've got a few friends down in LA that are directors, that are part of some big studios. And I asked them, I said, what are you guys scared of right now? They're like, people are scared of LeBron because he has enough money to where he doesn't have to go to somebody and borrow money to do a project. I mean, the people are scared of a 6'9" black man with money in their pocket down in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now that right there is telling me that you did things the right way. And I'm not saying that Ja could be on that level, but he could be kind of, somewhere in that, in that universe, right?
And with Ja grew up with 2-parent household in a house. Yeah, I was not growing up in the struggle like that. Not to say his father was rich, but he was there. He was present. And again, from what we know, it just T. Ranch has become a celebrity now because of his son. This guy was working a regular 9-to-5 job, had a mortgage, and kid was in private school. So I mean, he would forget Ja went to the same school was in the same programs as Zion. And Ja wasn't the athlete as Zion was at that time in their prep days. So again, it just seems like it's a glorification, a glamour with the street life. And it's a lot of kids like that from the burbs that they get enamored with that. And I just think that's the thing with, not that it's Ja's responsibility to manage the city, but you are a role model, whether you want to call yourself that or not. The old Charles Barkley thing, right? Because you're in Memphis, and anybody been to Memphis or watching this from Memphis, Memphis is going through some crossroads. And again, a lot of violence. And these are the kids that are wearing the Ja Morant shoes and are doing the signals and the whole bit. And it's just like I said again, it's bigger than the athlete. And I think again, that's where this generation, maybe even the generation before, but definitely this generation does not see or even care. It's not my responsibility. When generations in the past, when we had the Kareems and the Jim Browns and I'm not trying to equate that to these kids, but they understood the bigger picture. These athletes don't.
But you know what, Kev, to your point, you're right, because I mean, if you think about it, the last of the Mohicans that really cares about the social issues is probably LeBron right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now we look at the other side of it. We look at the other side. We're talking about the WNBA, where all the players care more about what's going on in social issues because it's affecting them and they're seeing it than people in the NBA. You know, the NBA, you know, and I'm not saying everybody, but some people think just because they have all this money that, these problems are going to go away. Guess what? I don't care how much money you have. You're still a black man walking down the street. It don't matter. So, you know, so you have to put things, you know, before yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you're right. Some of these kids in this, you know, some of this generation, they're not looking at the bigger pictures.
Yeah, 100%. So, you know, hopefully, you know, he gets it eventually.
Hopefully. And you know what? Hopefully it's not too late.
Yeah.
He's going to get
like,
it eventually.
What is he, 24?
It's not too late. But he's going to find out eventually.
What is he, 24?
24.
Yeah, you get, like, come on, fam. You got to get it eventually.
Yeah.
Come on. I like I say, I would want to know how much money has he lost with all these suspensions and fines. Like, bruh, that ain't coming back. You know, that money right there could be, you know,
but
something.
But you know what? It was Suave. To me, it's bigger than that because he wants to have this, and I'm guessing here, this so-called thug mentality, right?
No, I mean, you have a point. It's yeah.
Right. So, but we've seen examples of people that think that they have this thug mentality, and all of a sudden they're in a situation where you got actual gang members, and you're confronted with them, and what happens?
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing about Ja that I worry that I hope never happens to him. I hope that it never happens to anybody.
Yeah.
But you never know. You could be in that situation, and they're like, "Oh, you think you're a gangster now? Let me show you what it's really like to be a gangster."
Yeah, true. Hopefully not, but
exactly, yeah.
You know, because you don't want to hear about, you know, another superstar leaving the world early.
No, you're right.
In the prime of his life, and you know, with his shit, he got kids, and you know, you don't, you know, just all that. You know, we've all heard it before. I ain't gonna get into it, but you know, you just don't want to hear about that story again.
Right.
So, yeah. Well, on a lighter note, the top 10 of this year's draft.
A week or so ago, Mel in mock 3.0 had Sanders going 3 to the Giants. Now he has him going 9 to the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, first of all, Cleveland and the Giants, Grant, getting the best players in the draft at 2 and 3. That would be Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, passing on the quarterback there with Cam Ward going number 1. That gets Shador down to New Orleans. Remember, I had Shador going 3 and then Jackson Dart at 9. So really what I'm talking about here is the Saints. New head coach Kellen Moore. Dome team. Atlanta's in a dome. Carolina, Tampa Bay, good weather. Shador Sanders, I think, would be ideal. It would be a perfect fit going to New Orleans and be able to get that going. When the head coach comes in, he wants to handpick his quarterback. Shador Sanders, to me, is a guy. He's my QB1. I've had him that way pretty much all year. Have not changed. Not pretty much. All year it's been Shador Sanders.
So, Kev shared with us the other day that Derek Carr may not play this upcoming NFL season. So, is it a lock that Shador to New Orleans?
I think so.
You know, he could keep all his black and gold gear.
I think so.
You don't think so?
I think so. I think it's a lock at
okay.
9. I don't think
why you say no? Somebody may get him higher?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? Who you think?
You know what? This is good. This is one of the most interesting drafts I think in the past few years. Because last year we knew the 1 and 2 is going to be. This year we know who 1's going to be, but we don't know who 2 and 3 is going to be. Right? I mean, Cleveland. I don't think Cleveland would draft him.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cleveland goes after Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. That's just my opinion. But I don't know if the Giants pass on Shador. I don't know if they do because of what their quarterback situation is right now.
Yeah.
They need a young quarterback to come in. And if they like Shador, it could be Shador. Or they could try to wait and move up later on, to get somebody else. But I don't know. It's a possibility that he drops to 9, but I don't know if I don't think it's a lock. We don't know. We don't know.
Now, let me ask y'all this. Could y'all see, because like we've been hearing, Pittsburgh may be an option. Could you see a situation where Pittsburgh mortgages their future for him to get into that top 10?
Yes.
Maybe right on what is the Giants?
3.
Third,
3. They're 3.
Could you see Pittsburgh, hey, they see an opportunity. They like, look, we got to get him.
I don't see him going lower than 9, right? I think Terrell was correct. I think he will be in play, and maybe even New Orleans might try to move up because a lot of teams want to move down for more picks in this draft because it's more value. The question will be this. If you're a GM, do you see that? Do you think Shador is light years ahead of Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck from Louisville?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't believe that, there's no need for me to draft him at 3 if I'm the Giants. I can always get Jackson Dart later on. But if you feel Shador is like how Mel Kiper believes he's got him as QB1, then you get him at 3. Even though you got a coach on the hot seat and a GM on the hot seat, because you have to think as if you can't think in a defeatist mentality like, hey, I know I got to win this year, but I hope to be here next year too.
Yeah.
So I don't think he drops beyond 9, but I think it does open up the door. I don't think, let's say, Cleveland's out the loop. I saw something the other day where Cleveland drafted Travis at 2, traded back into the draft in late first round, and we ain't got Shador. So I mean, I think that I'm excited about this draft because of the strategy. Yeah. All we really know is 1. We don't even know 2 because 2 can go Abdul Carter, it can go Travis. Cleveland could surprise all of us and go with a quarterback. They just brought in Flacco. That's just 1 year, so you're going to have to get somebody too.
Real quick, I'm gonna just read y'all the top 10. This is Mel Kiper.
Yeah.
This top 10 is Cam 1, Travis 2, Abdul Carter 3, Will Campbell 4, Mason Graham 5, Genty 6, Armand Membu 7, Jalen Walker 8, Shador 9, and then they got us getting Tyler Warren, but I ain't too sure about it. So I mean, just based off that, could y'all see the draft kind of falling that way?
You know what? Again, we don't know, but it's a possibility, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing: is I don't think that Pittsburgh would mortgage their future because Pittsburgh's never done that before.
Right.
They're just kind of old school mentality because they believe that they can get another quarterback, whether it's a Jackson Dart or the kid from Louisville or even the kid from Alabama, Melbury. Milrose. Sorry, they're thinking that he may sneak in the first round, late first round.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah,
because here's what we have to realize too, is that getting a good quarterback is a great commodity because there's not a lot, so people are going they're going to try to find a quarterback that they can actually mentor and help grow, and so all these teams are scrambling, even some of these teams that have starting quarterbacks. You think about the Rams, Stafford's up there in age,
True.
they may want to get somebody young and and develop them as well. You think about Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
They got Jared Goff, but how many more years does Jared Goff have? So again, if they can sneak in and get a quarterback that they can develop, they may try to do that. So
that's
we'll
why
see.
I don't think the draft will go as I think it's going to be a trade in the top 10. Somebody's going to try to get somebody.
Kev, I think it's going to be more than one trade in the top 20, possibly. So
yeah,
again, but I think for people like us, and I can speak for myself, it's fun because I love the business side. I like the trading side of it. And again, I've been in the draft rooms when we made trades. Mm-hmm. It is fun to watch. It is like amazing to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, obviously never had that honor, but certainly I love the strategy of it. And I think again, you will see multiple trades. I don't think, but Kuiper's just doing what obviously is laid out. So
right.
He's giving his best pick. I do salute him on the fact that he has been on the Shedeur Sanders train. I don't think Deion's sending him many checks. So I just think there's a situation where he really believes, that type. And I'm a type of, I'm on record saying this. I think it's always ideal to have a rookie sit, but if you had to have one guy play before the other, Shedeur would be the guy to play right now. And then obviously, I think Cam, because of all his attributes, has a bigger ceiling. Same thing with Milroe. Milroe needs a lot of work, but the attributes, you can't teach that. You can't teach the run, the athletic ability. You can't teach the arm. Those are things you just have. Doesn't mean you have to have that to be successful, but it don't hurt either. So I think, again, those are the reasons why coaches, and how this firsthand, hey, we can work with this guy. We can give us a couple years. We can make him into something. And I salute that. But I just think that I don't see Sanders going below 9. Like there's some people got him getting drafted by Pittsburgh at 19. I don't see that.
At 20,
yeah, I don't see that at all. So I see him not dropping lower than 9. But I think again, a couple teams can be in play, and we'll see if somebody moves up to trade him. I don't think you asked the question, Suave, about can Pittsburgh move up. I don't think that's out of impossibility that they would move up, 11 spots, drop down, give a second. I mean, that's not their norm. But
yeah, if they want to move up, it's going to cost them more than a second. It's going to cost them a first.
This year's draft.
Well, but it's going to probably cost them like a first, maybe 2 firsts for the next couple of years. And
I'm not doing 2 firsts.
And Pittsburgh was not going to do that.
No, not 2 firsts. If you told me, hey, obviously swap ones, take a second in this draft, and maybe a compensatory pick next year or 2027. If I'm Pittsburgh and they just met with Shedeur, we went over there last week to the facility,
right?
Rated as 100% experience. I think Tomlin would work well with Sanders personally.
Yeah, but see, and here's the sad thing about this is that the Niners set the standard, and it was a bad move when they traded to get Trey Lance. They traded 3 first-round draft picks for that for him. And so now that's kind of the standard now.
And that's coming.
Who did they trade with for that?
It wasn't Washington. God, I can't remember who they traded up for. Was it Kansas City? I can't remember. I'll find out. But here was the original trade, and it got shot down.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to trade a number 1 draft pick, and I think a 3rd to Washington for Kirk Cousins. And Daniel Snyder said no because he hates the Shanahans.
Damn.
So
why though?
Well, because you got to remember
RG3.
Yeah, because the Shanahans were with the Commanders at the Redskins at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And Mike Shanahan, him and Daniel Snyder butted heads.
Right.
And he was just like, and Mike Shanahan is the kind of guy that's just like, he ain't gonna take crap from anybody. Right. He's like, look, you hired me to coach this team. I'm doing it the best of my ability. And plus, also too, the Shanahans didn't want to trade all those draft picks to get RG3. That's why they drafted Kirk Cousins in the 4th round.
Right. That was a Snyder move.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So the standard now to move up to that top 5, it's a lot of draft picks you have to give up.
Yeah. For the top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's gonna be
So
interesting.
It comes down. It's a Cupid doll contest. It just comes down to what you like. You
You're right.
big butts, you like the big breasts, whatever you like, because they're all cute. All right. So it comes down to who you like. If you feel that if a team feels like Jackson Dart is not a big dropper from Shador to Dart, then I just sit. Because I'm gonna be able to get Dart late in the first round, at least in the teens. Maybe you move up a couple of picks just to guarantee that. But if you feel like Shador is right there, if you got the Mel Kiper thought process where he's the best quarterback in the draft, then you move mountains to try to get him.
Yeah. But but again, if you're a team like the Giants, you need a splash. And right now, as bad as the Giants are, Shador would do well in that quarterback room because because you got Jameis and you got Russell in there, and they're two smart guys.
Yeah.
So he can actually sit for a year and learn from them and not be thrown into the fire.
You know what? I'm starting, as we get close to this thing, I'm starting to have a change of heart. I initially felt like, if you brought in two vets, I got a coaching staff and a GM on the hot seat, I'll see about a quarterback in 2026. But I'm starting to move my thought process, because you can't think like we're just here for 1 year. Even if you are on the hot seat, you still have to believe that we're gonna get the job done, and I gotta have something ready to go next year. I'm starting to believe if I had to get a guy, maybe Shador is at 3, the best move. If Travis is off the board, the Giants have a thought, because again, it's gonna be Carter or Hunter. Somebody's gonna be there at 3, right?
Right.
Do you go with the generational talent that they perceive to be, or do you go with the stableness? The quarterback's the most important person on the field. Not that every position is important, but you need the quarterback in order to let the engine move. Shador's not going to be fazed by the environment. He actually is a kid that, when you think about like the Jaws and all these athletes, this kid has lived it all his life. So he's almost like a child celebrity grown into a man. So he's not fazed by this. I think, again, it could be a good move. And as you just mentioned, Terrell, the Giants need a pop. This is New York City. It wouldn't be a bad move to get him at 3. But you're going to have to believe, because, again, it's very similar to like you did with Saquon, traded Saquon. If Abdul Carter has a great season, a 10-sack season, then you're going to have to hold and say, hey, look, we're playing the long game here, because obviously we know Travis or Carter will have more of a quicker impact than Shador, because you're not looking to play Shador until late in the season.
But you have to look at this too. Again, we know that Dayball and Joe Shine, they're on the hot seat, right?
Yeah.
And and the owners are already thinking about this, and I go back to when Jim Mora was leaving us, he had 2 situations. Well, he had 2 offers. He had Chicago and he had Atlanta. And I asked Jim, I said, okay, why'd you choose Atlanta? He goes, because of Michael Vick. He goes, because that's a quarterback that can change things. So again, if you're the owner, you want to attract a coach that's going to help develop a guy like that. That they're going to look at it like, okay, so let's say that they drafted Abdul Carter. They fired the whole coaching staff. Is the coach really going to say, oh, I want to go there because they have Abdul Carter? No. Yeah, probably not.
Right.
But they say, oh, I want to go
every year. Right. Yeah.
Right. But they have a guy like Shador. They're like, oh yeah, I'll go because Shador's there.
Yeah.
I can develop him.
I agree.
Yeah.
But
again, this is going to be an interesting draft to see what happens.
That's why I'm starting to like if they stay put, which I think at that, because we just mentioned it's King's ransom at that high of a level.
Right.
I think again that he's got to be in play for that. If you believe that, hey, you know what, we played a long game here. We got our long-term quarterback hoping for the next 10 years. And it's a kid that's not afraid of lights. He's lived the lights everywhere he goes because of his last name. And so I like it from that standpoint. So like I said, again, it's going to be a fun draft. But,
but also, too, you got to think about this, too, is with Derek Carr getting hurt, Jackson Dart, his stock has gone up.
Correct.
Like quite a bit.
Correct.
Because if Shador, real quick, if Shador goes at 3,
right,
then Jackson Dart is going to be sitting there, and New Orleans is like, we need a quarterback.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Do you think he would go at 9 if Shador's off the board?
I think so, but also too, we have to remember too that Spencer Rattler played pretty good
Mm-hmm.
He played pretty well.
And that was another thing out when people keep saying, "Oh, New Orleans," I'm like, I mean, you do still have somebody over there under a rookie contract. So at that point, do you just go away with Spencer Rattler?
It's a new coaching staff. It's hard to gauge
True.
that because this was, this new staff may draft Rattler, so they have nothing attached. Now it comes down to it's a beauty pageant. They feel like, hey, you know what, we can work with him, or he's somebody we can see long term as a future quarterback. Then maybe so. Obviously, again, when I think about Spencer Rattler, he just left too late. If he left after his, coming into his junior year, he was looking at the number one draft pick in the whole draft. So
was that the year they upset? Didn't they upset somebody at the end of the year? Was that Clemson or something?
That year? He was a junior when Caleb was a rookie, was a freshman at Oklahoma.
Okay. Okay.
He just had. I don't know if he felt the pressure from Caleb Williams or what.
More
it just all dropped because before that, the kid was looked upon as the number one pick in the whole draft.
Yeah.
Obviously, then once Caleb came in and took Oklahoma, took over the reins at Oklahoma, and then Lincoln left for SC, it was a wrap. But again, like I said, we'll see. But new coaching staff making different decisions. So,
well, and plus we have to look at New Orleans. That Kellen Moore is known as developing quarterbacks,
right?
So so again, even though they have Spencer there, they may draft somebody because again, it's the old Bill Walsh adage. You cannot have too many quarterbacks,
right?
So again, but you're right, Kev. It's a choice between, do you want Miss Venezuela or Miss Colombia? Which one do you like better? So
exactly.
Yeah,
I'll take both.
Y'all got a point. So, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how this thing goes because, like you say, it's gonna be something is gonna happen that we didn't expect. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Expect the unexpected.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch.
True, very true. So this is the next one. Hold on.
Exciting pick they can make and the most terrifying pick they could make. Because if they're right and they can afford to draft a running back at 10, then the team's awesome. We'll talk about how the Lions drafted Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 and how the Bears have Ben Johnson, and let's roll. But it's also a really smug pick. It's a very arrogant pick. Because is their offensive line ready for it? Is their defensive line ready for it? They were a world away from the playoffs last year, but they were 25th in rushing last season. They haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since David Montgomery. Kid looks like a star, but it's a deep running back draft, and they've got the 39th and 41st pick. So I'd be terrified and excited by the pick. Terrified.
So my question for y'all is, am I crazy for not wanting Genty? Because I think we got a bunch of other needs other than a running back. Because personally, I would want Kev's pick, Mimble, or Will Campbell. But it looks like, from what they're saying, everything is pointing towards the Bears getting Genty.
I see. I don't know if they. I don't know if they would go with that. I mean, because he compared Genty to Gibbs. Two different backs. Gibbs. True. I mean, it's crazy, but.
And he's right. And Genty's a bigger guy too.
Right. But again, it's funny how they say, oh, they were 25th in rushing, which, of course, me being a Vikings fan, I was happy for it. Like, yay. But their offensive line wasn't good.
I wouldn't expect nothing less.
Thank you very much. But their offensive line wasn't good. Well, guess what? They've improved their offensive line.
Yeah.
So they can wait and get a.
But I think, to that point.
Yeah,
I don't think they're sure about Braxton Jones because he's just coming off injury. They're like, well, we'll give him another year, see if he pans out. And it's like, bruh, if you ain't sure about him after, what is this, his third year,
right.
Well,
you may not ever be.
Well, and again, it's a new coaching staff, But you know what? I mean, I can see them going after a Will Campbell. You know what? I can actually see them, and you're probably going to hate this, but I can see them going and get a Tyler Warren. Why not? I know you got comment there, but just, if you have two good tight ends and commit what? This is his 6th, 7th year, something like that.
He just re-up. He just re-up last year.
Yeah.
So but second deal. Yeah.
But again, this is one of the deeper running back drafts that I've seen in a while. So why wait? I mean, you can wait.
Go ahead, Kev. No, go ahead.
To answer your question, yes, I do think you're crazy. I think this kid is a different type of back. You have to know where you play at. You live in the market, right? You're not just a base man live in Phoenix. You live in the market. You need a quality running back. You need a guy who can get you the tackle, especially in November, December. Now, I think again, same with Aaron Glenn, right? Former Detroit coordinator. These guys are building it the way they come from. Even though Detroit played in the Dome, Ben Johnson, even though they're different backs.
Yeah, they still played outside twice a year, though.
True, but I'm just saying, like, majority of the time. Control conditions. But in Chicago, you're going to need that. Now, again, I'm not opposed to Tyler Warren either. To be honest with you, I think obviously we're going to hit the kid from Missouri, but the thought even with Tyler Warren going at 7 is coming to a lot of people's heads because I just think he's that dynamic with how Penn State used him. Imagine, to me, he's the second most used offensive weapon outside of Travis Hunter last year in college football. And it's other backs down the road, the kid Hampton from North Carolina, Scatterboo, Arizona State. I get that. But I do believe that Genty is that type of back, a power back with speed that can get to the outside and you can play 3 downs. And I just think that obviously at 10, we're kind of caught in today's football. You don't draft a running back that high, and I get it. But this is a special type of running back. And I don't think anybody would question, well, maybe the Giants did with Saquon going 2, but what Saquon did in the Super Bowl, what he's doing with Philly, you're not questioning taking it back that high. Even with Gibbs got drafted high by Detroit. Nobody's questioning that. So my theory is that I don't think you're crazy. Is Tyler Warren in play? Yes, I like Tyler Warren. I think he would fit just like a running back. He's a tight end. He's a safety valve. You need those because, again, you're playing in windy. They don't call it the Windy City for nothing. But I think you're a little crazy. I think obviously some concerns drafting a running back that high because of analytics and the thought about the contact. But he's a different type of animal, different type of back.
But think about this. So let's say that you go get a Will Campbell. Okay.
I think Will Campbell might be gone at 10. That's my thing. I don't.
You know what? And you could be right. Yeah, you're right.
Unless they move up, I don't think he's going to be there at 10. So at 10, you're probably looking at a Genty, a Tyler Warren, those type of guys. I think the ones you're talking about are probably going to top 7.
Well, you know what? And Genty may be gone. Genty may be get drafted by the Raiders, right?
And that's what they're saying. They're saying that could be his landing spot.
Yeah.
Right. But again, you get all these other running backs that are coming out. The kid from North Carolina. You got what's the kid's name? The kid out of Iowa. You got him.
Caleb Johnson.
Right. Caleb, thank you. And you got the 2-headed monsters coming out of Ohio State. So there's going to be running backs there. But again, like you said, I like that the Bears have so many holes to fill, which makes me always feel good. But they can, they're like the little Dutch boy. They're like, oh, I'm gonna plug this hole. Wait a minute, this hole's open now. So, but I think there's so many other holes that they have to fill that are not deep in the draft this year. So,
yes,
you know how it is. If you can't fill the exact holes, you go best player available. If you're on the big board, he's probably the best player available at 10.
Yeah.
Unless we get trades and we get the health to stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
But to your point, to the point you made, Kev, about being a Windy City, you need linemen that can block for this running back. And, I mean, yes, we just got Joe, but you don't know how much longer Joe got. He's, 32?
Like the kid from Oregon who had the injury, not Cornelius, the one I know, the other kid.
Connery?
His injury. You're not going to draft him at 10, right?
No.
Right.
So
100%.
you have an option, Swab. And again, understand you could try to move down and say, hey, you know what? Who we really need and want it's not really there because you're not going to go up and draft a guy that doesn't need to be at 10. You move down. But if you're going to stay at 10, you got to get the best player available. You know what you got to address later on in the draft. But he is a game changer type running back. And I know people say he played at Boise and all that, but he in the big games against Oregon and Auburn, he showed up and he showed out. And he's you seen it. I mean, I know we don't go by the pro days. This kid's different.
Yeah. But the only thing I will say, he got a lot of tread on them tires, especially from this past year. It's a lot of tread on them tires.
And that's the dice box you roll, right?
That offense was him or bust, pretty much. And you kind of saw, that Penn State game when he couldn't get going, that offense couldn't get going. So that's my thing. He got a lot of tread on them tires.
But and I hate when people say this. It drives me nuts. Oh, he played at Boise. Oh, he played here. You know what? If you're a good player, you're a good player. Plain and simple.
For sure.
And the reason, and the reason why that he had to go to a school like Boise or someplace else because people weren't recruiting him. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't. Again, there's some smaller schools that are maybe a D2 or whatever that you're just like, yeah, you don't take them in the first round, but that doesn't mean they can't play in the NFL.
Right.
True.
So
and I like the fact when kids come from smaller programs, a la Josh and Roethlisberger, because they are the focus. Everybody's looking at them. You had 10-man boxes against Boise State.
True.
And the kids still ran through. I don't care what level you on. You got 10 people looking to get you. Somebody gonna get you. So that tells me a lot with kids who go to schools that necessarily they're not star-studded. Like we knocked all two would do was 9 routes, right? Because you had track stars on the other end.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, Suave, and that is a concern with any running back that has the type of load he's experienced over the last couple of years. But I also think that when you look at this young man in the climate you play and in the division you play in, you're going to have to play some physical football to take the pressure off your quarterback. And if the lineman is not there at 10, it's either going to be Warren, who blocks well, but also is a Swiss Army knife, or Gent.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question for you because we're talking about smaller schools. What school did Larry Allen go to?
Oh, what was that? Some weird name. It was a D2.
That's a lot of players that went to these.
Something crazy.
It was Sonoma State.
Sonoma. I was gonna say Goodyear. I know it's D2. D2 school. They found him out. Yeah, same with Leon Lett. I mean,
look at Charles Haley.
Yeah, he went to what was it in Virginia?
Virginia Union, right?
Who?
Was it Virginia Union that he went to?
No, not Union. He went to
the
Dukes. Who are the Dukes now?
It wasn't Gardner. It wasn't Gardner Webb.
It was in Virginia. George Mason, right?
Where did Charles go to school at? You know what? And I should know this.
It was in Virginia, either George Mason or what's the school that's moved to D1? The Dukes. Oh God, I can't think of their name. It's a Virginia school. At the time, they were D2.
He went to James Madison.
James Madison, thank you. Yeah, they just right. James Madison, right? Yeah.
So, yeah. But again, if you're a good scout, you're gonna find those players. You're gonna find the ones that are hidden. So yeah.
But again, it's like anything else. Until this better than anybody, is that those top picks. You gotta go with. It's like nobody. They used to have when I was in the town. Nobody gets fired for choosing AT&T, right? Even if it goes wrong, right? Because it's AT&T. The same thing with this is like to go out and get a guy that maybe the big board is saying he would be there 2025 or even a second round pick. You can't do that. There will be no more Jeff Lageman type drafts anymore in the NFL where you're just reaching for a guy at a high draft. Them days is over because it's like, okay, if that's the case, we move down. Somebody wants somebody. We talked about Shador and the quarterback situation. But again, if I'm at 10 and I'm staying at 10, and the guy and that need are gone, I got to go with the best player on the board.
Right. Yeah. I'll tell you, that's one thing that I do miss about being in the NFL is being in the draft room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a couple of days before when we're looking at things, and then when the actual draft is going on,
right?
And then watching people take names off the board and say, okay, this is our next choice. Do we like this guy? And watching the trades, watching the wheeling dealing. And again, I
got it traded. You had
I told you guys the story. And again, it was a masterclass for me to watch Bill Walsh maneuver the way that he did. I was just like, damn.
I can imagine if you can take your eyes and portray that out on the screen. I can only imagine how he maneuvered in a draft room.
Dude, I had to pinch myself so many times to watch him do things. I was like, wow, this is a masterclass right here.
Yeah.
So yeah,
definitely.
What's up? That's what's up. Okay, so after we had a great debate last week on this offense that could go against that defense, they have put not one, but two offenses. First team, second team. I think, quarterback situation, a little different for me, but I wouldn't have chose, the first team quarterback. But that's just me. So first, I'm going to show the defense, and I'm going to add a wrinkle because a lot of these offenses are 3 receiver sets. We ain't trying to have LT out here or Singletary out here getting routed up by the third. It's a bad day. You got matchup. Matchup make fights.
You think?
So this is the defense. This is the defense. People, remember the defense. But as my third corner, I would say.
So you're gonna put a nickel in there. What you're trying to say?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Because it's a lot of both of these are 3 receiver sets. I would say, y'all can agree or disagree or have another corner. I would say either Darrell Revis or Champ Bailey.
I was thinking Champ Bailey.
Can go one.
Either or.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's our third corner. Third corner.
Okay.
Taking one of these, more than likely Singletary or Lawrence Taylor, taking them all. So this is the first team offense. Look at that. You got Brady at quarterback. You got Barry Sanders at running back. You got Larry Allen. You got Jonathan Ogden. You got Anthony Munoz at one tackle. Hold on. Let me make sure I got this right. So you got Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens at slot, I'm assuming. Tom Brady at quarterback. Tony Gonzalez at tight end. Munoz and Ogden at tackle. You got John Hanna, Larry Allen at guards. And then you got Mike Webster at center.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do y'all want to stay with this one or y'all want to see the second one?
Let's see the second one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hold on.
That first one is pretty good.
It is.
Yeah, I would put that quarterback stuff.
Now, the second team, you got Peyton Manning. You got Gronk, Marvin Harrison, Larry Fitzgerald, Megatron, Peyton at running back. Then you got Joe Thomas, Orlando Pace at your tackles, Bruce Matthews or Randall McDaniel at your guards. Oh, McDaniel, my bad.
Yeah, don't be messing with the Vikings now. Come on now. Show us some respect.
And then you got Jim Otto at center.
Oh,
so
dang.
which offense would y'all like to go with? Or who would you like to pick and swap out for somebody and for the all-time offense? Because I know what you're about to say, and I agree. Where's Joe Montana?
Exactly.
I agree.
I'm switching out Brady and I'm putting Joe in there.
Okay.
And I'm done. I'm done.
All right. Oh, so you keeping that whole offense though, just taking out Brady.
I'm taking out Brady. Yeah.
No disrespect to Barry Sanders, but I'm probably taking Sweetness as my runner.
Okay. All right. You can't go wrong with that because you need somebody to run between them tackles.
But if you have a two, it's like we put it in a nickel, right? But but if we go with a 2-back system, why not have Barry and Sweetness back there together? I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well. Okay. So let me ask y'all this then: How would y'all have played this? Would y'all have 3 receiver sets whole game or what?
Well, the thing is you can't have a 3 receiver set the whole game.
No.
That's the beauty of it, that you can mix and match, right?
Right.
So
now, would y'all take out Tony Gonzalez for somebody else, like a Kellen Winslow Sr.? Anybody?
It's hard. It's hard, man.
That tight end position is hard because again, I like Tony. I would look at I would look at a John Mackey as well, right?
What about somebody with speed like Shannon
Sharp? Yeah.
Just you can never have too much speed on the offense.
But also too, you got to think about this though too, is that with that lineup that they have for the defense, you're gonna need a tight end that can actually block.
I don't need my tight end going in route.
But like we talked about last week, somebody's gonna you're gonna have to chip somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Tony was a receiving. Not to say he didn't like the block, but he was more in the offense.
Yeah, but he could block if you needed him to block.
So to that, so to that point, would you probably put Gronk in there?
No,
because he can do a little bit of both as far as blocking and catching.
Well, if you're going to do that, then you have to look at Kellen Winslow.
Yeah,
because he did both.
Or Ozzie Newsome.
Right.
What was Kellen Winslow's like playing height and weight?
No, he wasn't.
He didn't look like the biggest guy.
He wasn't big. The guys weren't big. Even leaving like Mike Webster was like 240. So NFL now.
But he can block.
Right, but that's the thing with these comparisons, because the game was different when Ryan Lott was roaming the secondary than even when Ed Reed was roaming the secondary. Right. So it's just, I think you just go by the talent and just say that obviously if we played in a neutral, just regular football, no NFL rules, just what we perceive as football.
Yeah.
Even what Revis did, right? You got Revis would beat the heck out of you in the first 5. You can't do that now.
No, you can't.
And they didn't play that much long ago, but the game is
a personal foul today.
But again, to me, the biggest disrespect right there is, how do you not have Joe Montana at least on the second team?
I agree.
That's the first thing I thought about when I looked at it. I was like, damn,
made this thing as more of a younger guy, because Montana to me is Montana and Brady. No disrespect to Peyton, but Peyton's always TV and commercials, and I think Montana's a guy. We talk about clutch.
Oh my God!
He's the only quarterback that's undefeated in the Super Bowl, right?
Him and Bradshaw.
That went to more than
him and Bradshaw. Okay. But Joe's the only one that's never thrown an interception in a Super Bowl.
Really?
Damn.
Yeah, that is
never thrown an interception in the Super Bowl. Yep.
Anytime a man is looking down the barrel, has to go 80 yards in less than 2 minutes, and saying, "Oh, is that John Candy eating popcorn?" That's coolness beyond coolness.
So I will tell you the story about that I heard. So Harris Barton, who was one of the tackles for the Niners, and Harris was, he was on the Niners when I was there, and I was talking to Harris about this, and he said that, and Harris is one of these guys. He worries, So they get in the huddle, and he goes to Joe. He goes, "Joe, what are we going to do?" He goes, "What do you mean? What are we going to do?" He said, "We're going to drive this down. We're going to drive this down and shut up their ass. That's what we're going to do." And then Harris said, "I was calm after that."
Yeah. That's the respect of your quarterback. Because I don't think every quarterback walks in that. Like Mark Sanders wasn't walking into that huddle going about, yeah, guys, let's win this game. Like, shut up, are we gonna lose?
Right. Yeah,
Montana and listen, Montana's been cool ever since eating chicken soup in the Cotton Bowl. So it's just a certain type of guy. But yeah, I think that is sacrilegious. But hey, listen, it's a beauty pageant, right? It's a beauty pageant.
Right.
What was like how big is Joe Montana?
Oh, Joe is like 6'2", 6'3", and he probably when he playing, I think he weighed just a little bit over
75, 180.
Yeah, he was just a little bit over 2.
Okay.
Just a little bit over 2. Wow.
Yeah.
Third round pick too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
So y'all good with the offensive line?
In his house somewhere.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. The offensive line is cool. I like the offensive line.
Oh, and last week when we was thinking of Seattle, I was thinking of Walter Jones, the tackle.
Oh yeah.
He's
I was like, I know it was some black. I'm like, I couldn't think of his name.
That man in Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. Not named Sean Alexander.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm like, golly, I can't think of this dude.
But not named Cortez Kennedy, yo.
Oh, dude. Okay, so I got a great story about Cortez Kennedy. Oh my God, this is hilarious. So my first year, we were playing preseason, and we were playing Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So at halftime, it used to be where we would have hot dogs in a certain area in our locker room, right? And again, it's preseason. So at halftime, I'm like, getting hot dogs for people and the whole deal. All of a sudden, Cortez Kennedy comes into our locker room. And he goes, "Hey, man, where's the hot dogs?" And I was like, I'm not going to tell him no. Like, they're over there.
No.
It's over there.
That's a big human being. Yeah,
right. And I said, the condiments are in the bowl right next to it. He goes, "Okay, thank you." I kid you not.
Candy.
Yeah. He loaded up his arm with hot dogs. And took him out. And took him out. Again, it's preseason, right?
He wasn't playing the second half, right?
No,
exactly.
he wasn't. Yeah.
Damn.
So that famous picture of Rick Meyer eating the hot dog on the sideline came from our locker room because of Cortez Kennedy.
Wow.
Wow. So that and this I think was last year where that picture circulated again. Okay. And I'm friends with Rick Meyer. So I was texting Rick. I said, "Rick, by the way, you know where those hot dogs came from?" He goes, "No." I said, "Cortez came into our locker room and got those hot dogs." He goes, "I never knew that."
Well, he's still about his teammates. That picture went viral for years and still going.
Exactly. Yeah. So
the hot dog man, that's your new name. Tell a hot dog man.
Hey, I was an intern. If they wanted a pizza, I would have called and got them pizza. It didn't matter. So
I would have too. You want what? All right, bet. Don't
you got it. Yeah.
Don't you worry.
Yeah, you want some chicken tenders? I got you.
All right, so I saw this video, and we all are football minds. So I want y'all opinion or your version of this after the video.
Probably Julius Peppers. I mean, he was like 6'8", 290, just shredded. He was a freak of nature. Speed, it had to be like Lawrence Taylor. Straight Reggie White. The hump move changed the game. He really was throwing people like little kids. Footwork, I would say like right now, like Myles Garrett, the Euro step and stuff like that. He's got some stuff going for sure. Ooh, hands. I'll say myself. IQ, either Bruce Smith or Strahan. Guys that did it for so long, so consistently, knowing how to rush in certain situations. I feel like those guys did it at the highest level. If you're talking about like the top level guys,
guess who? Max Crosby.
If you could create your perfect position player, how would you go about it?
Everybody that he said there, I would just throw them all in the mix.
You would just create a D lineman?
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm saying you're like you could create the perfect receiver, perfect tight end, quarterback, running back, O lineman, D lineman. linebacker, corner, safety.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you create?
So you're talking about one position.
Yeah.
So if I could create just one position.
Hold on. I'm going to pull the video back up so we can go by his standards. I think the first one was what?
Probably
Body
Julius
type?
Peppers.
All right. So body type. Who you creating, T?
If I'm doing that position right there, if I'm doing D line, I would use Julius Pepper.
Okay. All right. And the next one, Kev, what position you creating?
I'm gonna pick quarterback. So if I'm going type, I want a guy that's athletic, strong, can take a hit. I'm probably saying Michael Vick.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but but if you had to pick like different body types, the whole deal, how would you do that, Kev?
What you mean as a quarterback?
Yep.
Well, I want a guy who's 6'3", 6'2" to 6'5", that's athletic, that's strong, that can take on, that can absorb, contact. Maybe even a Josh Allen, get big, strong guy that can kind of take on. Yeah, body type probably wouldn't take Vic. I would use Vic somewhere else. Body type would probably be Josh Allen. Big, strong guy that I know that can take the contact and obviously still weather and to still make plays downfield. So I'll take Josh Allen on body type.
Okay, speed
would be Vic.
Yes.
Easy.
Okay.
Easy. What would be the next thing?
All right. So for me, I'm gonna create the perfect receiver. I'm gonna say body type Megatron.
Okay.
Speed.
Randy Moss.
Call me crazy. Tyreek Hill. I mean, hey, who else take a quick slant 80?
Okay. And I can say this because I saw him live. I don't know how many, like 3 years in a row, and he drove us nuts. I'm taking Randy Moss.
Okay. All right.
Because I've never seen a receiver besides Randy that was coming off the line. Our DB was 10 yards back, and Randy's throwing up his hand already. And I was like, "What's he doing?" And then all of a sudden, he ran right by our DB. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Catch him from the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So hold on. Strength. Who you want your quarterback to have strength like, Kev?
It's a good one. Strength. I don't know.
You know what, Kev? My personal opinion, I would say Josh Allen.
Strength like Josh?
Strength.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that to me, strength and body type kind of go in the same. Because if you can't be strong and not be able to hold it up.
Right.
Maybe I would say Allen. Maybe Roethlisberger as well.
Yeah.
Again, guy that can, again take on take the punishment. So yeah. But I'll go for keeping it rotate. I go Roethlisberger.
Okay.
My strength.
I you know what, Suave? If I would go strength for a wide receiver, I'm going T.O.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
I would go T.O.
I was thinking that. Yeah, okay. We'll do that then. So body type, Calvin Johnson. Speed like Tariq. Strength like T.O.
Okay.
All right. What's the next one? Footwork. I know who I got.
Who?
I'm gonna go Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Or Chad Johnson as far as footwork.
I would go Devontae. Kevin, who would you go for quarterbacks for foot speed?
Footwork or foot speed? Because footwork.
Footwork.
Right.
So
Got it.
I wonder. My question would be though, like for a quarterback, is it like a pocket presence?
Elusive. Right? He's not trying to move out. Just he can navigate through the muck and mire.
Yeah, because Brady, hey, as slow as he was, Brady was pretty good about maneuvering that pocket.
I would say Elway. Montana had great footwork.
I would go Lamar.
Lamar's right there too.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Even. Yeah, again, Elway had good footwork. Lamar has good footwork. Steve Young had good footwork.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. IQ.
For quarterback,
Joe Montana.
Thank you. I'm dropping it right there.
That's the thought. Montana.
As far as IQ, I'll probably say Jerry.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would say Jerry.
All right. And what was the last one? Oh, that was it. Oh, overall.
Well, I mean, but so wide receiver, you have to go hands.
Hands.
Right? I mean, there's to me, there's so many.
I would say I would say probably Jerry Rice for that too.
Yeah, you can go Jerry.
I mean, my man was catching bricks. You know,
Dude.
like come on, fam.
Yeah,
you catching bricks
in Mississippi.
You know,
exactly. He's catching bricks.
You know, but I would go for a number 2. I would go with Devontae as well because his hands.
Or
like,
hands.
damn.
I would agree on that.
Like how do you catch that?
I would agree. Matter of fact, let's do this again. Let's make the perfect safety.
Okay, but going back to your receivers real quick.
Yeah,
I would add another category.
Go ahead.
I would say if you want to have the perfect, let's say, party man, I'm going Michael Irvin. Just say it. Here you go.
Now you know what I would say probably in this category probably toughness, and I would go Hines Ward.
Oh, dude, 100%. Him or Steve Smith, either one of those two, right?
Yes, you got my man was going across the middle, lighting up air.
And plus, you watch them block too. You're like, damn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hines wasn't fighting. He just lay you out and just get back to the huddle. Steve want to talk to you. Tell you lay down. Don't get up. It's like, come on, man.
Right.
You're already throwing insult to injury.
Right.
But let's create the perfect safety. Body type.
Ronnie Lott. I'm done. I'm walking away.
Okay. All right. You say the same, Kev?
Well, I mean, listen, Ronnie is top of the food chain. I'll flip it a little bit. I'll add Kenny Easley.
I'll say Cam Chancellor.
Kenny Easley or David Fulcher.
Huh?
Kenny Easley or David Fulcher. Okay. Those are guys I mimicked when I played. Big guys that Ronnie was the standard. But just to mention other greats, Kenny Easley played in Seattle, another black man from Seattle, UCLA, played in the same time with Ronnie Lott. So again, very similar styles. Take your head off. Same thing with David Fulcher, played with Cincinnati, Arizona State, with big guy that could probably be a linebacker in today's world, would take your head off. Steve Atwater, same thing. But again, Ronnie Lott, you can't go wrong.
I mean, and you got to throw Ed Reed in there too.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
But I wouldn't put Ed in body type because Ed, I would probably go down the road with IQ and different things like that. But the body type, the three they were. I mean, for their day, obviously they're not as big when being right. But for their time, they were menacing. You did not. I mean, we didn't. You would not want to go across the middle of Ryan Lott. Ryan Lott cut his finger off the kid, pinky finger off the kid.
Right. I was about to say, what was
that mentality alone? Is like, I don't want to see this man on the field.
No, hell no. I'm good.
But I mean, and you got to look at Troy as well, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Troy again. I think in these other attributes, he's definitely being mentioned for sure.
Who you got? Speed? Who's one of the faster safeties?
I mean, Ed Reed has some pretty good.
I was gonna say you can't go wrong with Ed.
Can't go wrong with Ed there. No.
Can't go wrong with Ed. Strength. Shit, I'll say Bob Sanders.
Bob was
bad pick.
Bob was nasty. You know what? If I would go strength, I would probably look at like a guy like Joey Browner.
Okay.
Can't go wrong either.
And Bob, man, what I didn't know is Bob Sanders wasn't a big dude either. He was like
he's only like 5'8".
5'8". Yeah. I'm like, dude.
Yeah. Okay, but where would you look at a guy like Mika Fitzpatrick?
Probably hands.
Hands?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he
he also has good IQ too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he does. Footwork.
Palomalo.
Oh God, yeah.
I give you that.
Yeah, done.
Footwork, IQ, Minka, or you can say Troy too. Troy, Ed. You know, I seen a clip before when Belichick.
Woodson, he moved to safety. Yeah.
I give you that. Hands, who got good hands as a safety?
You know what? Just about everybody that we named, I think they have all good hands.
All of them, yeah.
You just take your pick.
Right.
No pun intended, but yeah, you just take your pick.
IQ.
You know what? I'd say all of them again.
Yeah.
Because to play the position that they play, that on the defensive side, that is probably the most important position when it comes to calling out, the signals and calling out the plays.
And you got to know what everybody else is doing as a safety.
Right, 100%.
Right, because you're like the center fielder, so
you
have to know what's going on. You have to be smart to realize when not to cheat up, savvy enough when I know I got to go deep. Maybe chip off a receiver. It's a very, again, like I said, it's not for the faint of heart. Like especially in today's football where it's not about really, it's not so much about physical contact. Guys still hit, but you don't have that freeway that you had back before. So different game. So it really comes down to just being smart and savvy. That's so important in today's game.
True. This is good. This is good. Because I mean, some of these guys are, one like Megatron. You'll never see nothing like that again.
And big shout to Max Crosby. He's giving back to his University, Eastern Michigan. Obviously, that's where he's come from. He's helped him with a field. He's also out recruiting. If you go on his X page, he's recruiting, trying to get the next great DNs to come to Eastern Michigan. Obviously, not a hotbed.
Right.
We talk about 4- and 5-star players, but nevertheless, here's a guy that's giving back to his university where is all he can. So salute to him on that.
If
true, 100%.
You know who could have been in that conversation, and this is just my opinion. If you would have took a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? If he would have looked at his craft a little differently, and is Clowney.
Yeah.
Oh,
He was a freak, but I don't know if he put enough as much hard work in as some of these other guys did. You know what I mean?
Clowney, when I look at Clowney, you mentioned him, I look at it reminds me of the Nico thing now, right? Clowney was a guy that after he made that big hit in the Citrus Bowl, we were like, he shouldn't even play his next year of football. You should just. I never heard that with a college player, and I think Clowney, since his college days, was just a guy that, and maybe the people around him just get the money. Once you sign that check, that first contract, roll the credits. The movie's over, right? We did it, and I think that's. And again, unfortunately, very good talented player, but I just think that certain guys, and tell this firsthand, just winning is not the most important thing. I'm not saying that about him per se, but just some of his movements kind of show that it's about the dollar,
Right.
And, hey, let's knock that. But if you're going to play the game, why not play to win?
Well, he became a mercenary.
Yeah,
basically. He became a tackle for a DN for hire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I will say this. We go back to DNs. One guy that they didn't bring up, and he's when it comes to his IQ, he's very, very intelligent, but he's a little nuts too. Is Charles Haley?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, the stuff that I used to watch him do at practice, and the way that he would coach the young guys, he was like, damn. But Charles got a couple of screws loose.
Yeah.
So
he went to the Hall, right, Charles?
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's got 6 rings.
Oh, well,
yeah.
You definitely going to the Hall then if that's the case. Or you should.
Yeah.
You definitely should. So, real quick, going back to this Nico situation. Is this the beginning of some of these kids getting out of these deals early? Or
here's
a way to get out of it?
Yeah. So here's my opinion about that. You know, going back to it, there's something about people with the name Nico that you just look at them like, what are you thinking? I'm not.
There you go. There you go.
I gotta get one in. Come on now.
See, that's what Ty be talking about. We thought you was gonna say some groundbreaking stuff. Boy.
I did. Oh, people already know that. So my bad. Maybe not. People already knew that. So
I think this is the tip of the iceberg with that. I think again with the federal legislation coming around the corner, I think again schools and coaches and ads are going to get tired of this. And I think this is kind of like this happened. I mean, for the players' sake, it probably was rotten timing, but for the administration and schools, it was the perfect time for this to happen because now it's like, we need some legislation. And I think this might be the bomb drop that does that forces that to happen.
Well, you know what, Kev? Here's what I hope doesn't happen, though. I hope they don't take this to Congress or to the Senate.
And that's what they say the next step is going to be.
Well, but this is why I don't like it, because with the current administration the way it is right now, they're not going to look at it from a player's athlete standpoint. They're going to look at it from a color standpoint. Yes, 100%. And so they're going to do everything they possibly can to shoot this down, to put them back on the plantation. So that's why I hope it just drags out as long as it possibly can.
You know what's funny? You say that. I was talking to somebody the other day, big in the HBCU space, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was saying, "Hey, what would be the one thing that?" And we've always said it's nothing new. Like if all the black kids went to the A&Ms and the Gramblins, what have you. Yeah. And my thing was that's great, but remember who these schools are funded by, right?
Right.
So DeSantis funds A&M, Florida A&M. But yes, if you took a situation where you did that, I believe that there's always going to be an innovator or a capitalist to say, you know what, this might be the perfect time to have a new league. I don't necessarily think that will happen. I think because while these administrators and these funding people in Congress will try to do that, they also realize that while yes, they have their opinions and thoughts on people, they know when they want to root for their favorite team, they know what it is about. You go to Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, they have their issues, but on Saturdays, they love you. And not too much on Tuesday night. But they know on Saturdays they need those players. And again, whether that means going back to having like a set number on the board and then having under the table movements again, players will still play. And again, these people who will say all this stuff on Capitol Hill, they realize because a lot of these congressional people are tapped into their state universities who realize at the end of the day, we still need that 4-2 guy out of Miami or that, or that running quarterback out of California. Because again, if you want to win, that ain't going nowhere either. So,
but Kevin, it goes deeper than them rooting for the universities. It goes deeper to the boosters. That they're the millionaire and their billionaire friends.
Yeah.
Who went to the same universities as them,
right.
Or they didn't even have to go to the same university as them, but they're friends.
Right. And obviously they support their campaigns as well. So again, like I said, they will try to turn the screws a little bit, but I hate to say this, and I thought I would never say this concerning college sports. There needs to be some type of legislation, a little,
100%.
But it is, it's Jesse James in the Wild West right now. When a kid is making almost $2 million as a college player and saying, well, you know what, I deserve some more money. This
is all still tax-free, right?
Huh?
No.
This is all.
No.
Oh, it's not tax-free.
No.
Okay.
Oh no. No. The government's going to get their money one way or another.
Right.
But that's also another thing they were trying to do is that they were trying to use these collectors as nonprofits because it's educational, but that's not flying anymore either.
No.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But because I mean, just listening to it is like, if you given, like I say, back to Michigan, They gave that. What is he getting? 12 million for 4 years?
10 over 4, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. What if he feel like, hey, I kind of outplayed this contract. I need a little more,
Well, okay. So think about this, and I'll switch over to women's college basketball.
Yeah.
Olivia Miles just transferred from Notre Dame to TCU.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
That's because of the money that's coming in now at TCU.
Is that girl Stan, the Haley girl?
No, she's getting drafted tomorrow now.
Okay.
Yeah, she's going to get drafted. She'll probably go in the top 10. But also, too, you think about what's her name? Fu Wiley from South Carolina. She just entered the transfer portal because they brought in the shooting guard from Florida State. And so she looked at that and was like, okay, some of my opportunities that I was getting here is going away. So I'm going to go someplace else so I can get more money.
The girl from Florida State already?
Yep.
Damn.
Yep.
She cold. The one with the knee brace, right?
Yeah, they got the one from Florida State, and then I believe they got a player from NC State as well.
The girl from NC State was friends with Autumn Johnson, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They go back to high school, something like that.
Right.
So
right.
Oh yeah. She did say that. Yeah, it was a post. She was like, "Let's run it back."
It's about winning, and Dawn didn't like being embarrassed last week. Yeah. So when that happens, I got to make some changes.
Well, and also too, and I don't know if it's happened yet, but it sounds like Chloe Kitts' sister may be joining South Carolina because she entered the transfer portal from Florida.
It's popping. It's probably happening.
So yeah.
Dawn is going double barrel.
Oh,
she didn't, you saw that looks on her face last week. That was not. Dawn is not used to that, and Dawn ain't going to.
You could tell she was mad as hell.
But
like,
and the thing is and I hate when they say this. They're like, oh, you know what, South Carolina, they weren't prepared. Bullshit. Sorry, but the thing is that
we had Mad Max earlier. It's okay.
Yeah. So, but UConn, you got to give UConn credit.
Yeah.
When they hit that tournament, they were destroying everybody. They destroyed UCLA by 30-something points.
You said it was #1 team in the tournament.
Exactly. And and to tell you the truth, I didn't see that coming. I thought UConn was going to win, but I didn't see that by 30-something points. Like, are you kidding me? They were killing everybody. So you sometimes you hit a team that's on a hot streak. That's all it is.
And the girl was strong and AZ Fudd. Pretty much Paige was kind of mundane. It was those two. Sarah Strong's a freshman.
I was gonna say you still got 3 more years of that. If that, if not, all 3.
What's the big school in Florida? The big college, high school, IMG. Yeah, they got a girl come from IMG next year. So people think Gino's ready to retire at 71.
It was crazy though. I didn't know it had been 9 years since his last chip.
Yeah.
Right. But obviously they're still dominant, but they just haven't got over the hump.
Yeah. So here's a question for you guys. Where do you put Gino as far as college coaches?
Men and women?
In basketball?
Yes.
Strictly basketball?
Strictly basketball.
I was about to say I was gonna say after Dean Smith and Coach K, you gotta be number 3.
Wooden, Smith, Krzyzewski.
Yeah, Wooden too, yeah.
He, obviously Pat Summitt, you got to put her in there too. He's in the top 5.
He's in the top 10 at this point.
Well, but you have to look at it this way too. He has more championships than any coach, men's and women's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's coaching women.
Exactly. And he built that program from nothing to, and again, I'm not a huge Gino fan, but I appreciate the stuff that he does. But you got to look at that. Like,
him then.
I have him in my top 5.
Yeah, I agree. Top 5.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, can't go wrong with it.
Him and Summitt are in the top 5 as women. It doesn't matter what level of basketball. And probably before it's all said and done, Staley will be there as well.
Oh yeah.
I still think Dawn Staley can be if she wanted to, and I think it will happen eventually. Will be coaching the NBA.
I can see it.
I can see Dawn. If there's any person that can make the transition, it's her because of the respect, her style of coaching in your face. It's not, you're not going to look at her just as it's a woman coach. It's a basketball coach, period. I think Dawn, if she wanted to, and if I was an NBA team, you got these expansion teams coming up soon. We talk about marketing.
True.
That might be somebody I go knock on their door.
So the only way that I see that happen is, again, you have to have the right GM with the right frame of mind.
Right.
And Kevin, you made a great point with the expansion. So let's say that LeBron does get the team in Vegas.
Right.
He could do that.
Yeah.
He could do that.
I just think that it's obviously it's a reach. It's different against the grain. But we're in a time now where going against the grain is a good thing.
But Kev, you got to think about this too, is that Popovich let Becky Hammond coach a couple games, during the season. So
league coach too.
Right. So why not?
Right. Yeah. I agree.
So, yeah.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah.
But people, we have come to the end for myself, 950 Kev, T Jones, OG. We will see you all next week with more dope content. Go ahead.
And don't forget to watch the WNBA draft tomorrow.
Yes. And
in New York.
And I mean, the whole week, you got the play-in tournaments. What, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yep.
Then Friday. Then the playoffs start Saturday.
Yep.
So,
it's a good time to be a sports fan.
Yep. These next 2 weeks can be really good.
And you got, for the wrestling fans, WrestleMania starts Saturday.
And while you're sitting down on your couch watching your favorite sport, make sure you do it with some refreshing Saratoga water.
All right, people. We'll see y'all next week.
All right. We'll see y'all.
All right. A little slower than usual.